Ladies and gentlemen, the Ascendancy Rocket Launcher is the Season of the Lost ritual weapon. It's obtainable by ranking up any of the game's 3 core activities, that being Vanguard, Crucible, or Gambit, to rank 16. And this, admittedly, is a weapon that I more or less disregarded at the launch of the season, simply due to the fact that I need another rocket launcher like I need a hole in the head. And, arguably the most interesting perk on the weapon, Explosive Light, once only obtainable on the Wendigo grenade launcher, was only providing a 15% damage increase. Just recently, this has been changed to provide a 25% damage increase, a big enough buff to pique my interest. So I'm going to break down Ascendancy, take a look at its perks, run some damage and functionality testing, and talk about its performance on both the PvP and PvE sides of Destiny 2. And if at any point you do find this video useful, helpful, or enjoyable, feel free to leave it a like at any time. And if you're not already, consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel to catch more Destiny 2 content presented by yours truly in the near future. But let's get into the review and look at Ascendancy's stats and perks. Ascendancy is a legendary solar precision frame rocket launcher carrying 1 round in the magazine with a 15 round per minute fire rate. For the stats, we'll hop over to d2gunsmith.com to check out some solid numbers. First, the fixed barrel and magazine perks provide a nice bump to velocity, stability, and handling, with an additional increase to the handling, since this ritual weapon will drop fully masterworked in that department. For the selectable perks, in column 3, you'll have your choice of Impulse Amplifier, increasing the rocket's velocity and boosting the reload speed, or Ambitious Assassin, where multi-kills can yield you an additional rocket in your magazine. In perk column 4, we have Chain Reaction, where enemies killed by the rocket will detonate, creating a secondary elemental damage explosion, or the aforementioned Explosive Light. Picking up an Orb of Power increases the next rocket's blast radius and damage. In a nice added benefit for Ascendancy, it is a precision frame rocket launcher, meaning the rockets carry tracking. Rockets will lock onto a target when aiming down sights, and track to that target when the weapon is fired. But now that we know what we're working with, let's start putting this thing to the test. Alright, first perk that we're going to test out is Impulse Amplifier, increasing projectile velocity and reload speed. Without the perk equipped, and it is kind of hard to see here, but shooting from wall to wall in this lost sector takes 2.79 seconds for the rocket to reach the other side and detonate. With Impulse Amplifier applied, the rocket does traverse the room in 2.56 seconds. Not a huge difference, but I did want to demonstrate that there is a difference. For the reload speed increase, at base, Ascendancy can be reloaded and fired in 3.37 seconds. With Impulse Amplifier, that time can be reduced to 2.5 seconds. And if you want to cut things down a bit more, a single but expensive rocket launcher loader mod will result in a 2.03 second reload speed. For Ambitious Assassin, as long as one of our rockets secures at least 2 kills, reloading the weapon will put 2 rockets in the magazine. The only catch is, this does have to be on an empty mag. If you're holding 2 rockets already, you can't secure a multi-kill and then force a reload, putting 2 more rockets into the magazine. But anyway, moving on. Chain Reaction works in a very similar manner to Dragonfly. You can see that enemies that die to the rocket create their own secondary blast. Now for Explosive Light. If you have experience using Wendigo, you probably understand this perk, but for those of you who don't, every Orb of Power that you pick up will award you 1 stack of Explosive Light. Once a stack is acquired, it is going to persist until it is used. So swap weapons, reload, use abilities, it's all fine. And FYI, you don't need to have Ascendancy out to gather these stacks. I'm doing it just for demonstration purposes, but it will collect stacks when holstered. And the maximum stacks that you can carry at one time is 6. One of these stacks will be spent each time you fire the rocket launcher. And these rockets do carry an increased blast radius and deal more damage, which we're going to look at in just a moment as we move into our damage testing. But the disclaimer first.
PvE damage numbers are variable and will change depending on content scaling or enemy tier, so I do all of my testing in the Conflux Lost sector on Nessus versus Carl the Colossus to keep these damage numbers consistent and comparable from video to video.
Alright, base damage versus Carl. 17,467 points of impact damage and 55,640 from the blast. And for some reason, that impact damage comes in about 1,500 points higher than any other legendary rocket launcher that I tested. And it's not coming from the increased velocity from Impulse Amplifier either. I tested both with and without, and the results held consistent. To the best of my knowledge, every other legendary rocket launcher currently is hitting for 15,879 in the impact department. So if you have a solid answer as to why Ascendancy is hitting a little bit harder, let me know. But as I've said in the past, more damage is always better than not more damage. I'll take it. But either way, grand total for our base damage, 73,107 per rocket. 3 rockets at base can be fired in just around 7.66 seconds, dealing a maximum 219,321 points of damage. Damage per second comes in at 28,632. Impulse Amplifier, as I said earlier, does not affect the per rocket damage, but it does improve the reload speed, which will up the total damage output. With the perk selected, I was able to fire off 3 rockets in 5.86 seconds, moving the damage per second up to 37,427, a pretty substantial increase. If we try things out with Ambitious Assassin, starting out with 2 rockets in the launcher, time to fire 3 rockets comes in at 5.4 seconds. That puts the damage per second at 40,615. And this is contingent on having 2 rockets in the magazine to start. And eventually, Impulse Amplifier might overtake it. But damage is a bit higher in the 3 rocket test. If we take into account the damage increase from Explosive Light though, a single rocket will now deal a total of 91,251 points of damage, which does show that 25% damage increase. Actually, it's more like 24.82, but close enough. This is significant. Now dealing 273,753 points of damage over the course of 3 rockets. So reworking all the numbers to compensate for the increased damage. Base damage per second, 35,737. With Impulse Amplifier, 46,716. And with Ambitious Assassin, 50,695. Very good DPS numbers for a legendary rocket launcher, whose damage output could be pushed up even further if you wanted to apply a rocket launcher loader mod. But even without one, these are impressive. In terms of Ascendancy's performance, it has a lot going for it, as most ritual weapons do. Bungie slapped on a killer perk set, smacked it in the butt, and said, go have fun. Both Ambitious Assassin and Impulse Amplifier are great perks, and you're not losing out on much by picking one over the other. If you like the idea of potentially seeing 2 rockets in the magazine, go with Ambitious Assassin. And if you want a quicker reload with a faster rocket velocity, go with Impulse Amplifier. It all boils down to personal preference and how you want to run it. For the other 2 selectable perks, Chain Reaction is nice and all, but I can't turn away from that 25% damage increase from Explosive Light. And this is a weapon-bound damage increase, so it will compound with High Energy Fire, Font of Might, Empowering Rifts, Well of Radiance, list goes on. And due to the fact that Orbs of Power are so readily available in PvE, keeping Ascendancy with Explosive Light stacks is hardly an issue. Then inherently, this rocket launcher just seems to deal more damage than other legendary rocket launchers. I'm not 100% sure why, but it's a definite plus. Also, Ascendancy has good handling, great for using rocket launchers while airborne for the quicker aim down sight speed. It drops fully masterwork so it can generate its own orbs, and it is a precision frame, so it intrinsically does have tracking. And it's a legendary, so feel free to spend your exotic slot elsewhere. I mean, seriously, what more do you want out of a rocket launcher? Lasting impression, Vorpal weapon, maybe in certain scenarios. But even then, given the choice of the 3, I think I'd still take Explosive Light. For some drawbacks, just 2 that I can really think of. Sometimes with tracking rocket launchers, higher projectile speeds are not what you're looking for. Sometimes it feels like slower moving rockets with their increased airtime have a better chance of tracking and bending toward a target. Not a huge issue, but if you are equipping Impulse Amplifier, try it out and let me know what you think. Drawback number 2, here in Season of the Lost, 0 rocket launcher mods in the artifact, and no anti-champion functionality. Meanwhile, Particle Deconstruction and Unstoppable Fusion have basically made linear fusion rifles and fusion rifles almost must-use weapons, which I think is the main contributing factor as to why Ascendancy hasn't got a whole lot of attention. But when rocket launchers get back to the forefront, this is definitely one you're going to want to keep an eye on. But moving into PvP, where I don't have much to say about this weapon, but we'll put it through its paces and then get things wrapped up. Alright, into the Crucible and starting out with the damage numbers. When you tag an enemy guardian with a rocket in PvP, you're going to see 300 points of damage. Full damage from the blast will be seen from around 2.5 meters away. The very edge of the lethal blast radius appears to be somewhere between 3.5 and 4 meters, with an absolute radius of approximately 5 meters. Versus a guardian in a roaming super, you will need to land a direct hit, getting that impact damage involved also, to secure a one-shot kill. A near miss in this case is not going to do the job. With the explosive light damage increase, we'll be dealing a maximum of 377 total points of damage. But look at that blast radius. Mrs. Ironworker takes 349 points of damage at about 3.5 meters away. It looks like that lethal blast radius is now pushed out to about 5 meters, since the perk is both increasing the damage and the size of the explosion. In the full radius, where a Guardian will take at least some damage, is all the way out at 8 meters. And versus Agent Sparkles and her Spectral Blade Super, Explosive Light is delivering 194 points of blast damage, enough to down a Guardian on a near miss, running tier 6 resilience or less. The perk helps a great deal. As far as Ascendancy's performance in PvP, it's a rocket launcher, and it does what rocket launchers do. Great for guaranteeing a single kill, or some multi-kills if you can catch some enemy Guardians grouped up. But this one does have a few added benefits. Impulse Amplifier can be a very nice perk, since the increased velocity gives enemy Guardians a shorter time frame to evade the rocket if they do see it coming. In the tracking, while I don't see it to be a huge selling point for the Crucible, I would still take it over a non-tracking rocket because it does help the cause. Then the high handling can be quite nice as well, since you're only going to pull a single rocket when grabbing heavy off the wall. This provides a quicker swap speed back to your kinetic or your energy weapon after touching off that rocket. So if you do need to clean up a kill, you'll be able to re-engage a bit faster. And on top of that, Explosive Light does offer us a nice damage increase. And a cool feature about it that I forgot to mention in the PvE section is you don't need to have any ammo in the launcher to build those stacks. So if you did run over some orbs before picking up heavy ammo, those stacks will be there for you to make use of. So yeah, it's a pretty solid rocket launcher for PvP as well. If you do like running rockets in the Crucible, definitely give this one a try. For the verdict, Ascendancy is an awesome rocket launcher, and very useful on both sides of the game. As far as I'm concerned, there's not a better legendary rocket launcher currently available. This basically provides everything I could possibly ask for. I'd take it over every single other legendary option. Pound for pound, in my eyes, Ascendancy is the best. It's just currently taking a back seat to some of our hard-hitting linear fusion rifles in the heavy slot. But if the correlation continues, where this season's ritual weapon will be next season's featured weapon in the seasonal artifact, the Witch Queen expansion will be Ascendancy's time to shine. And shine it will. But if you did enjoy the video, please remember to leave it a like, and consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel if you're not already, to catch more videos similar to this one. To contact me, Ironworker814 on Twitter. Join our channel Discord, the link is in the description, or comment down below and I will do my best to get back to you. And with all that being said, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out this weapon breakdown. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.